Have you got a four-wheel drive that's done a lot of kilometers? Well, chances are that some of its components have begun to or are already worn out. One of those components that can often get overlooked but is critical to the handling and performance of your four-wheel drive is your shock absorbers. Your shocks have to handle a huge number of forces every time you drive your car, whether that be just traveling to the shops or taking it off-road to remote locations across rugged terrain. The OEM shocks that come standard in most four-wheel drives are not designed for rugged use and can cause them to wear out quickly, particularly if you like to take your car off-road through harsh terrain. Chances are, if your shocks have done over 80,000 kilometers, then they're likely worn out and no longer performing how they should, with reduced handling, response, and an overall rougher ride. Similar to how your engine oil needs replacing every 5 or 10,000 kilometers, shocks also contain oil that breaks down over time. Now, most shocks are actually a sealed unit and you can't just replace the oil alone, so the entire shock needs to be replaced. Now, aside from just your old shocks being worn, there are a number of other reasons that you may want to upgrade your shocks. Many people like to modify their four-wheel drive suspension setup, whether that be with new heavier springs for increased load carrying abilities, adjusting the vehicle's ride height with the suspension lift for more clearance, or you might just find that you want to add more weight to your vehicle in the form of accessories like bar work, winches, and storage. Your standard shock absorbers are not designed with this additional weight in mind and will often do a poor job of controlling the increased load or vehicle characteristics. And so aftermarket shocks are essential to maintain or improve the vehicle's ride quality and safety after these changes. In the instance of a suspension lift, raising your vehicle will often require longer shocks to fully utilize the extra travel provided by the taller springs. Your standard shocks in these conditions can often fail due to being overextended, and so by upgrading to a longer shock, this ensures the best performance out of your vehicle's suspension. Now, here I have an upgraded Formula 4x4 Big Boss shock, which is designed to suit changes to your vehicle, like increased suspension lift or increased load carrying. This shock has key design improvements over a standard shock that makes it far superior in performance. Now, aside from being made in various lengths and weights to suit a wide variety of vehicles, the Big Boss shock, as the name suggests, is actually much larger in bore and body diameter than any standard shock, and this has a number of benefits. The larger bore actually allows for a larger piston and increased oil capacity inside the shock, which improves ride quality and durability by distributing the impact forces over a greater surface area. In your standard shock with smaller pistons, the same force is concentrated over a smaller area, leading to a higher pressure per unit area and more stress on the shock. By distributing the impact force across a larger surface area in the Big Boss shock, the stress and wear on individual components is greatly decreased, which improves the shock's performance and longevity. This reduced impact force is actually pretty easy to figure out, so let's break it down. So let's assume that a force of 1,000 newtons is being applied to the shock and see how the force is distributed across shocks of varying piston size. First, we'll start with the smaller piston size, like some of you might find in your standard shock, a piston diameter of 30 millimeters. First, we'll calculate the surface area of the smaller piston, which gives us a surface area of approximately 706 millimeters squared. Then our pressure per square millimeter can be calculated by dividing our force of the 1,000 newtons by the area. This gives us a pressure of 1.41 newtons per square millimeter. Now let's do the same calculation with a larger piston area, like the one you'd find on a Formula 4x4 Big Bore shock, a piston diameter of 40 millimeters. Again, we'll calculate the surface area of the larger piston, which gives us a surface area of approximately 1,256 millimeters squared. We then divide that area by our 1,000 Newton force to give us a pressure of 0.8 newtons per square millimeter. The larger piston of the Big Bore has greatly reduced the pressure from 1.4 to 0.8 newtons per millimeter squared, which is almost half the pressure. This means there is less stress being placed on the piston surface, seals, and other internal components, greatly enhancing the durability of the shock and its ability to handle repeated impacts without degradation. By spreading the force more evenly, the Big Boss shock is also able to maintain better control over suspension movement, which provides a smoother and more comfortable ride across rough terrain. The reduction in concentrated stress also helps extend the life of the shock and ensures reliable performance in demanding conditions. Now, these shocks have been built to last inside and out with that larger 40mm metal piston for increased strength and performance. The Big Boss struts feature a 58mm outer tubes and the shocks a huge 70mm outer tube, which provides increased oil capacity and far better heat dissipation. This will keep those shocks performing as they should during harsh repeated use, like when driving on corrugations. The big ball uses high temperature Fuchs oil along with high temperature seals for consistent performance under demanding conditions, and they also utilize SuperPro bushings, which will ensure the shock's durability and improve its performance. Formula 4x4 have built these shocks to last and stand by it with a 3-year, 60,000 kilometer warranty when purchased separately. But if bought as part of a lift kit, that warranty extends to 5 years unlimited kilometer warranty, which just goes to show how tough these shocks really are. So if your current shocks are worn out, you're doing suspension upgrades to your vehicle, or you just want the best ride and performance in your 4-wheel drive, then it's time to upgrade your shocks, and Formula 4x4 have you covered with their big bore shocks. If you want to learn more, you can head over to formula4x4.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.